Good morning. Good morning. Super weird video this morning because I'm dealing with a subject matter that has kind of it's too close to home. It's in the metaphorical sense and direct geographical sense. Like this literally happened. Like I drive past this school every day, almost, or I was, and I just want to do a quick little analysis of how this is being reported, because I think that the way things are reported needs to be looked at in the role that that is playing in amplifying certain tensions that are existing in society. The narrative, obviously there's a shooting at a school, and immediately the media has jumped onto a blowing it up into we're going into America, we're going into a decline of, you know what I mean? This is like when, if you look, you know, just from reading briefly the article, there's lots of stories going on. There is always a way to tell a story. And what I'm saying is that the way we decide to tell this story is setting the foundation of what we are going to be going into. And so with that, something like the West Australian in Perth, we don't have a lot of newspapers. We have one, and we have, you know, a couple of news stations, and we live in this conceptual bubble that is provided for us by these service providers of media material. And so what I'm going to, I've had a brief read through of it, and then what I'm going to do is comment on the editorialization, I think that's how you'd say it. So one, like the front page is a giant black thing that says, "I'll kill people," right? What are you doing, West Australian? I'll kill people. What does that do? When that's sitting in every deli, every lunch bar, every supermarket, every newsagent, you know what I mean? In the state, I'll kill people. Is that what happened? That may have been the words that were spoken. But was that what happened? Because when I read the article, which, you know, there's no way we're getting all the information, but it's like, is that what happened? I'm not taking away from the fact that this is an unbelievably extreme event. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Shooting at a school is, I'm not trying to take away from this, like, severity of that event. But what I am trying to do is reflect back what these institutions are putting out into our environment with shit like this, and turning a situation that I've briefly read, and by using I wish I could say that word, editorialization. There we go. Bit of practice and we get there. Now, just, it's gonna be hard because I'm gonna hold it up. You get your own version, get your own copy. It's like shooters calls kill threat, right? You know what I mean? Mark McGowan walking in there, ready to handle this situation as he does, with a heavy-handed fist. Every piece of that information, which, like, again, it's not like this is bad, this is good. It's just, I'm just commenting on the arrangement of how this information is being expressed to you. And the only word for that is fear-mongering. You are fear-mongering an incredibly sensitive situation in a local community, and you're splashing it over the entire state, and then you're using that to perpetuate some type of narrative of social decline when, as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that triggered the social decline that we may or may not be currently in is this same bullshit that has been going for a couple of years now of ramping up, splashing like fearful information everywhere, ramping up a narrative of like stress, of all these things, when like the one job that you were required to do as our sitting government, a standing government, whatever it is, was to not do that. And you've repeatedly done that in combination with the media and our standing government. And this is nationwide, but I'm just going to talk about Perth. You've just continued to shove fear in people's faces day in, day out, and fail 100% to look further into the nuance of what's actually going on. This event, this was a 15-year-old child, 15-year-old child, okay? Now the thing is, you're turning it into something about guns. I've read the article, I've read the thing. I'm obviously not a policeman. I don't know all the details. But someone who does something like shoots at a building, okay, there is no way, if his intent was to kill someone would be dead, because we're talking about a gun and people, okay? Someone would be shot. There is like, and again, I'm not saying this isn't a crime. I'm not saying this isn't illegal and this shouldn't be handled like, of course there is something like that. Is not, I'm not recommending that as the model. But what I'm doing, it's like, this is more complicated than you simpletons continue to make it out to be. By this shit. Like, there needs to be, en masse, just a fuck you, stop doing this. Government, stop fucking doing it. The media, stop doing it. No one was killed, okay? That child could have gone to that school and said, I've got a bomb in my bag. And he may or may not have had a bomb in his bag. And that would be handled exactly the same. He could have gone with a knife. He could have gone with a rock. He could have gone with a big stick. He could have gone with anything. Okay? It's like the fact that this individual felt that the only way, which is always what this is going to be, this wasn't a case of like predetermined, I'm going to go and kill people. It's an obvious cry for help. It's like, think about it. I'm a 15-year-old boy. I barely understand the world. I've just spent the last 3 years in something that most adults would claim is the weirdest, most confusing time we've ever been in. And we have a 15-year-old, for some reason, has decided to go to a school, discharge a firearm at that school, and then phone the police to hand himself in. That is not a de-escalation into violence. That is the first symptom of a completely fucked environment where this child has basically thrown himself in. Like, think about the thinking, right? A 15-year-old would be aware that, yes, this is serious, all these things. But those chain of actions, shoot at a building, imagine it. Imagine you're in a state where you're like, I don't know what to do. So obviously there's some kind of problem there. Something's been going on. And it's probably quite major. And, as a teenager, things get blown up as well. So he's looking at the environment. He's seeing this. He's seeing daily things about fight clubs in school. He's seeing, like, military level people at like, what's it called? Juvenile detention centers. He's just spent 3 years in hell. He's got, like, every news station saying, oh, we're probably going to war. What is this doing? What are these things doing? And the thing is, there is no order. If you're a teenager right now, especially, late adolescent, where you're kind of at 15, 16, 17, 18, and you're looking at a world where we look like we're going into war, and then, so I'm a 36-year-old man, if I can observe the environment and say, people are not acting in relation to the situation we're in. There is a complete dissociation. If you're some type of child who can feel that, not knowing the world, not knowing anything, and you felt like you have to do this extreme event to get your point across, obviously somewhere within him, with the knowing he did not want to hurt people because people weren't hurt. That is a gigantic divide. And again, not taking away, it is a crime, it is illegal. We should 100% condemn that action. But if there aren't suitable avenues for especially young people, but this applies to all people, to get their point across to someone that can actually help them or do anything. And if I can't, after a year of directly criticizing and trying to get comment, I don't know, a journalist from anyone from our state, from the head of our state, what does a 15-year-old, what chance do they have? And then you go, okay, it's a mental health thing. All right, let's go into that. I've been implanted from birth in that world, okay? My mother was deeply in the mental health system before I was born. It's my entire life has lived with that around me. And I can 100% tell you, it is completely ridiculous. It does not work. It's not at all a solution. Mainly because we've just learned from the pandemic, the majority of mental health treatment has now been given to companies that produce medications that, in a lot of cases, when there are actual events like this where people die in different countries, those medications are usually present within that scenario. And then what do you get? So you get a mental health system. But that's not what I see. I see a bunch of entitled, completely unprepared people who have been indoctrinated into a system that basically checks you along a little box, where everyone pokes and prods at you, puts in their little 2 cents, to the end where you get to a line where you go to a pharmacy and you get some pills that do God knows what to your brain. And all those people along that complete slosh of absolute garbage are sitting there getting paid by the government. They've got nice benefits. They've got all these things. They're a carer, or they're a mental health advocate, or they're a community whatever. No, they're not. They're not. That's not how it works. What society has done is it's outsourced, and it continues to do this. It outsources all these societal problems to massive companies that then simplify the solution down to the bare minimum, a product in a little thing that you can pop out that you go back and get every week. That is not a solution. That is laziness. That is mass societal, rejection, not even rejection. What would you call it? There's a word, and I hate when this happens. It's a lack of responsibility taken by every level, whether it's the immediate family, the extended family, the community, everything, the schools, the government, everything. is in that because we live in an outsourced bubble where someone's broken here, they go here, they get this, we have a solution. No, we don't have a solution. We do not. We never have. If you go back on that history chain, like we used to get people who weren't perfectly functioning within like a very new industrialized, complete ridiculous system. So anyone who wasn't functioning in that little beehive properly was sent off to a place called an asylum where they were experimented on, raped, everything for multiple fucking years, and then that was unsustainable to be paid for, so they just let them all out in one big hit when none of these people, none of the family accepted them back in. And then once again, all those smaller levels, whether it's the family, the extended family, the community, all those things, again, outsource their thing to pharmaceutical companies which are actually poisoning and abusing these people again. So where is, and literally my entire thing until this point is this criticism. And you can see it. You can see it for a long time. I hate to tell you all this, to break the secret. This is my active exposure of what's going on. And it always has been. Because I'm sitting in a dark corner, majority of the time saying these things to myself. What does that do to my mental health? I'm saying really important things that I have direct experience with for my entire life. And yet it is being ignored because you continue to outsource things that you don't like. You push them away and you force something on them. You label them, this is a crazy person, this is a whatever, Now go into different scenarios. Imagine, and this is all just make-believe. None of this exists, right? What if that child who went there and felt he needed to do that, what if someone was there who was sexually harassing his sibling or something like that? You know what I mean? And running some type of crazy level manipulation bullshit, social fucking manipulation, all these things that those types of people do, okay, to push someone into a point where they're shooting a gun at a fucking building. Now that will never be said. And that is where we're at. If you have a convenient thing to shove people in, again, like unvaccinated people, like whatever you want to just squish people into. You're a fucking crazy cunt. It's not that simple. It's never that simple. Someone who is identifying and rejecting completely flawed, outdated systems that seem to be only functioning because they just benefit enough people within the society, just enough that no one really wants to rock the boat. That's not a way to build a society. And then perpetuating outrageous narratives, trying to prime the people of Western Australia into some type of panic response again. Over and over and over again. You are fragmenting society by doing this. Because every time you get a problem, you select a small group of a certain trait, whether it be skin color, some type of ideological decision, some type of mannerism or personality trait. You're always zooming down on something and saying, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is bad. We don't need this. And then when there is a response, because say that's, if you're a 15-year-old child and you feel in that position and no one is listening to a 15-year-old child, no one, not properly. So they're in an amplified scenario. When I was 15 years old, I wasn't like a 15-year-old. I was in a very dynamic, strange family health, mental health situation that forced me to be more aware, like, do you know what I mean? More capable in lots of different ways. More like, you know, more barriers put up, all kinds of different responses. Because at 15, I already knew how stupid this thing was. But then you're trying to like, you also don't, because everyone goes along with it. So basically being born into the mental health thing, and I wasn't born with a mental disorder. I don't consider myself to have a mental disorder, a mental illness, anything that you would label onto me, because that's the only way it ever works. You're telling me something. Nobody on this earth has jurisdiction to comment on my mental state, especially if they're benefiting from a system that continues to label people, put them in a pile off to the corner, encourage family units to ostracize and push that person out of their circle of influence. No. And this is an extreme version of that, okay? It's complete evidence of the fact that our leaders have slipped into some type of narcissistic, megalomaniac, power hungry, power, drowning drunk from power, from having utilized every single piece of control they can use for the last 3 years. And then the bright, sunny news is that no one's dead. No one was shot. No one was killed. Despite that. And to sit here, day in, day out. And this is just a newspaper. You might be like, kids aren't reading the newspaper. What are they doing? Do you even know? Do the majority of you even know what kids are doing these days? No, you've got no idea. You've got no idea what they're using, what technology, how they're interacting. From what I've observed, the children are resulting to be like weird, slightly neurotic versions, like very, very insecure. Like honestly, because what they have, and this is what no one again is noticing, especially in government, because we're just planted in some model that was slopped together 20 years ago. And that's all you've got. You can't shift away from that. You're just staying within the same structure. But then we have children coming out who are communicating in ways that like 90% of adults don't understand, which will be going both ways. So there'll be there's young people right now are communicating in a way so that's almost like a protection. They have this protection thing because they can communicate away from our systems. So they're like independently developing in this period. They're not exposed to this. They're not reading the paper. They're in their own environment and they're not going to just jump into your swimming pool. A lot of them aren't. But then also with that, so that's a positive thing. There's an extreme protection because young people are like, they're building their own models to communicate on. That's protection from us. Because instinctually, a whole lot of kids are understanding that the system they are entering is completely against them. And the reason you're not hearing about that is because they're smart and they're not saying that. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. This isn't everyone. This might not be your son or your daughter, but there will be sons and daughters out there that are seeing what's going on and are looking forward and going, no, this isn't. We're going to do stuff better around here. This is the far extreme of those types of things. Okay? The one thing that is consistent, in my belief, of someone who would act in this level of extreme behavior is that they wanted or needed to get some type of exposure to what was going on. And it's like, that's not mental illness. If there was something going on that needed to get exposure that wasn't, what would your suggestion be to the 15-year-old in this? How would you have suggested he handle that better? And then remember that you're dealing with a 15-year-old who's looking at video games where they're killing everyone every day, movies where there's guns every day, news reports where there's guns every day, extreme minority groups that are pushing an extreme agenda, actually not even, you know what I mean? Weirdly coming up in sections that generally weren't, doing that type of behavior. And now we've got that. So it's just a mess across the whole board. We're living in a time when it has never been more accessible to produce something that can get your point across, like I'm doing right now. This is what I'm doing right now. But there is a complete shutdown of that unless you were in one of these systems. Now that is insane. So unless you're the West Australian, or unless you're the West Australian government who is causing these things, who caused the toilet paper run? The people that mentioned it. That's how it's social contagion. It's always social contagion. It's like, oh, they toilet paper now, fucking Jesus. And then when they're there getting toilet paper, they get everything else. And you continue to do it. And why are you doing it? What's your reason? You want to take the guns. You want to take the guns, so this is what you're doing. You're using a 15-year-old's cry for help in probably a completely shattered system. And in your newspaper, you've got 98% fear and posturing. Fear and posturing. And this little section here, this bit, mental health. Accused gunman victim of broken youth mental health system. It's not a broken youth mental health system, it's a completely broken mental health system from top to bottom, every fucking aspect of it. It's the most corrupt, absolute, scammy bullshit I've ever fucking seen in my life. Every level of it. Every single level. And anyone benefiting from some comfortable job where you go and talk to people who are in fucked up situations that you can't even understand, and you go home with your little paycheck and pretend that you've been doing something well, you know what I mean? And you know that at the end of your line, you're just shipping somebody off to a pharmaceutical company so they can go and pop pills every day to function in an environment that is spiraling out of control. You're the problem. Because that scale of that fucking system, which is the entire public funded medical system, all your bullshit offset shoots of that, your caring crap, your fucking community, all these things who aren't trained, who are just trained in the doctrine of getting people to that end point where they're shoved a pill down their throat, which doesn't do anything except create fucking more medical problems, does not allow them to progress through a natural progression of dealing with intense environmental triggers that are triggering people into responses that people aren't comfortable with. The reason you're not comfortable with someone who's experiencing a mental health crisis is because they're criticizing you. And so you all get together and you go, that person's criticizing me and I haven't done anything wrong. We need to sort this out. This needs to be sorted. They need to be removed because they are unsettling the apple cart, and the apple cart, it needs to continue to carry apples. That's what you're doing constantly. And I'm pointing a giant finger at every single person who continues to do that. You're not doing anything for mental health. You feeling unsafe and all these things, and then building a government-funded system that doesn't do anything except pay pharmaceutical companies and support a bunch of fucking meddling people who want to meddle in everyone's life and put in their little 2 cents, and they know everything and they want to control this, and you're broken here, so you need to go here. Oh, you were abused since you were fucking 5 years old? Oh, that's really sad. Like, how do you even... No, fuck off. That's actually a problem. Do you know, it's like this soft, weird response, especially from men. So you've got a 15-year-old here looking at the news, knowing in 3 years he might have to go and shoot people in another country because of the crap we're going into. So you want him to be prepared in that way. You want him to go and protect our country. You want him to be prepared in firearms. You want him to go and storm the battleground and fight the good fight. And I put my Ukrainian flag in my Facebook profile. But when that child then feels that the system, do you know what I mean? And at 15, you're feeling that disconnect. You're like, this thing's not against me. It just wants to throw me into a war of like, I'm not getting trained for anything. This school is not sufficiently educating me for the environment that seems to be manifesting directly in front of me. And as a 15-year-old, you're not exactly, you're not seeing completely clearly through that landscape. And I can 100% see how if you were like in that, you know what I mean? You go down the wrong path, you get to you get to a point, you get to a T-junction where you don't know where to go. And this is what we're at. This is that if someone was intended to be killed, they would have been killed. It wasn't. It was a cry for help. And not from a, like, even if it's like if you go a broken mental health, well, let's spend money on the health system. No, you can't just spend money at it, because when you throw money at a system like that, what do? You get bludgers that go and fucking go do some 2-week course to go and piece together why a 15-year-old goes to a school with a gun and shoots it, when they might not have come from anywhere near the environment where that type of thinking would come through. You know what I mean? You go pull someone from Nedlands or wherever the fuck they are that's grown up with a full pantry, both parents, all these things, and you want to throw them into a system where a 15-year-old has 2 guns and then got, like, do you know what I mean? What are you doing? You are underprepared. Everyone. So you want to spend money. You're not spending money because you can't just spend money because the problem can't be fixed with just money, because it's not a money problem. It's a communication problem. It always is a communication problem. It can't be fixed with money. It can't be fixed with creations of stupid jobs or creations of pharmaceuticals. It is always has been, and continues to be, a communication breakdown from those who are healthily benefiting from a system and those who are being actively condemned, ostracized, pushed out, destroyed by that same system. And the response from the system is always to create more system that more pushes these people into the ground. And then enforced daily by fear-mongering. So you can all feel justified in your decisions, your social decisions that you're either directly doing or just being completely oblivious to. That doesn't protect you. Being oblivious from a situation that you are directly funding. You pay taxes, this system exists, you vote our people in, there isn't a nationwide callback against this type of thing. It's completely ignored. So you are socially funding the removal, drugging, labeling, condemnation, everything. You'll destroy a person's life. I seriously, when this was used, because about 7 years ago, this was directly used by both my mother, who was in that system, right? So the person who is in this system that you're saying isn't right? The system was created in theory to protect me, her offspring, yet that same system was literally used against me, the person it was meant to protect, as a weapon, and then jumped on board in a marital dispute to the same thing. It's like, what are you doing? Like, no. You can't create a system and then use it against me and say that it was protecting me. It was never protecting me. It was never protecting her. It was never protecting anyone, because that's not what it does. It's not what it's there for. It's a little bit like the RSPCA. The RSPCA isn't there to protect animals. It's there to kill animals. Because people don't want fucking stray dogs running around. That's your system. That's your mental health system. Except they're not dogs, they're fucking people. And you sit there, all of you, day in, day out, thinking that you're such a great member of society when you're actively ignoring this type of thing, day in, day out. And then you continue to just jump on the thing. You're just going to dig yourself in further by outrageously, you know what I mean, over-exaggerating and blowing up situations to perpetuate this thing of control. Now the problem is, most people in that system, I am a weird outlier that happens to be able to I've developed a way for me to function with I'm not mentally ill. I think differently than you. And so from my perspective, you think differently to me. So I actually see you the same way that you see me. It's just that there's more of you. And you all get together and you do that. And what I'm showing you back is that you're all getting together again, pointing the finger at somebody else, putting a label on them, blowing it up, getting terrified again. Because what happens is this child probably didn't start at the point where he goes to a school with guns. He probably had little points, and probably what happened is he was ignored continuously, over and over again, by adults, by children, by teachers, by government, by mental health people, because we do not communicate. Even the feeling that you're going into there has been such blatant perpetuation of this mental illness fucking cult in every aspect of social media, where it's now become like we've got people celebrating being trans and then mutilating their body, and they're being celebrated for that. You know what I mean? If you get an ADD bloody diagnosis, you're now I'm celebrating the fact that I have ADD and I'm medicated. What? It was always bad, and I've experienced that my entire life. I've lived directly in that. It's fucking terrible. It's constantly terrible. The biggest misuse, the biggest abuse that I can say, having directly grown up in that environment, that was relatively new when I was in it. You know what I mean? It's steadily, you could say it's getting better, but it's also getting worse at the same time. It's not better. It's just out of sight. But the biggest abuse that I see, the real key point, is the diagnosis. Somebody telling someone else that they're fucking broken because of this, because of a conversation they had with someone. I can do that with every single one of you. Every single one of you. Any single person who comes in will have some type of psychological or mannerism or something like that. That's insane. That mirror needs to be shone back at those people, because they're doing the exact behavior that they will go and label as all kinds of different things. If you're a person that is so self-assured into a system where you know that you have a chat with people, you put it through a model that was given to you by a system that as a whole benefits from this system, and then you fix that problem with a pharmaceutical, basically, solution. So what are psychiatrists? Psychiatrists are not psychiatrists. Psychiatrists are drug dealers. They are drug dealers. And they're not drug dealers like street drug dealers. Because what's the interaction with street dealers? Oh, you got any? Yeah, man, this is pretty good. Like, this is all right. This is all right. Maybe it might be like, this is a mellow thing, whatever. This is okay. Like, yeah, give this a go. Yeah, here's this. I'm not pro or against any of these things, but I'm just saying, what is a psychiatrist doing? You are broken. Sorry to say it, you are fucked up. There is something very wrong with you. But I can help you. I can help you. We're going to get you on. We're going to start you on a slow round of this chemical that I basically don't know about, but it's had really good results. I've heard from the reps at multiple companies that this is a real go-getter. This is really going to, you know what I mean? It's going to rewire your synapses and get you firing and get you back out on the field, so to say. And I'll just sign you up, repeat here, and if you come and see me again in 2 weeks, we will continue that. Now, that used to be the case. It might have been someone that sounded like that. And now it is this. Like, and that, all right, go at me. Say that's racist. Fuck you. Fuck you, say that's racist. That's racist? It's racist, like, imitating a foreign person's accent when they're fucking, like, trying to interpret someone who has a different accent's mental capability and put them on a track that continues to get them with pills? No. I think it sounds like crazy. I don't even know what a jackrabbit is. I don't even know what a doona is. All these words you're saying I've never heard before. Whatever accent I happen to have, whatever cultural background I have that is in no way conducive to the patient's social upbringing or cultures or mannerisms or anything like that, and you're diagnosing them with a fucking mental illness and putting them on a fucking train to get them to fucking pharmaceutical wonderland over and over and over again. And that's what, we need a better mental health system. We don't have any doctors, so we ship doctors in. Do you know how exposed that is? Just for complete, like, weird levels of corruption and control and all these things that you could just never fucking see coming. Ever. One little bit of thought put into that at an organized level and you're just like, you can completely destroy a society, and that's what I'm fucking seeing. I'm seeing people in charge that are incapable of analysing the actual nuance of a society and have fallen into the same old fucking trap of going down corporate sponsorship, perpetuating models that already exist because it's easier than redesigning or correcting them, not looking at first principles but just adding on with a short-term mindset of I've got to be here for another 2 years and then I'm out of here and I can fucking have my name on the wall. Go look at the data. Look at the data at school shootings. Look at the data at school shootings in relation to psychotropic, what are they called? SSRI medications. I was railroaded by two of the closest members in my family into this system, was not listened to, was directly held down in Joondalup campus and fucking injected. After spending approximately 10 minutes conversating with someone who I never saw credentials from or anything like that, they go, you have schizophrenia. Fuck off. Fuck off. I go in saying, hey, I'm like, whatever, I'm experiencing a different level of thought. And that's how you do it. You send 2 6 7-foot tall fucking bodyguards in. And when I politely ask to leave, you stand them at the end of my bed and say, you're not leaving, we're going to sedate you. No, no, no. No, no, no. Which then, it's like that was never in my interest. Ever in my interest. Ever. It was literally used against me as a weapon. Continues to be used against me as a weapon. So the person going along, and then even it's like, this is how broken the system is. I remember after that period of time, I had to, because it actually goes that the lower people down are actually the more responsible people, but they're the least like kind of rewarded. They're the people that are actually doing important things, and the people at the top are the ones screwing us. But then it's all muddled around when it comes to like remuneration and things like that. So then after having that experience, I went and had a conversation with two like local level people. Great, that's cool. I'm not condemning that. And they're like, oh, or what, you're supporting an entire family and then looking after your mentally ill parent while they're being actively disruptive to your life, and you're dealing with someone who's like, you know, not understanding your communication techniques and stressing out as well, and you're trying to just keep this all together while you're then also caring for your elderly father who's on the verge of death. Within that system, within what I just mentioned, I had two of the closest people in my life try and throw me into this system. That I'm saying, in 10 minutes, gave me a label for the rest of my life. In 10 minutes. And tried to shove these fucking pills down my throats. There has been one time where I was having, it was very close to that period, I was having anxiety, panic attack type things. Now, 7 years on and older and wiser and all these things, I'm like, no fucking shit, I was having anxiety. No wonder. I will draw you out a map of the situation I was in. If I wasn't having anxiety, that would be the problem. If I wasn't having these kind of panic attack things, that would be the problem. But after 10 minutes, you try and shove some pills down my throat. I've, in my life, had 2.5 tablets, I believe, maybe 3, it's hard to really say, of a pharmaceutical that is designed to bring down anxiety immediately. I hadn't had that intensity before, and so they were extreme, and that was slightly a relief. Like I was like, it just stopped, thank God it just stopped. It's just gone now. I had a thing and it's gone. But then what I noticed is, and I would go to sleep. And so I'd go to sleep and then I'd wake up the next day and I would notice that the level of anxiety was higher than where it was before. And that is a train. That is a loop. And I went, fuck that. You don't fix a problem that then spurts up worse the next day, because you're just going to get stuck in it. And I saw it immediately. I was like, get this shit away from me. I don't want it. And what I did is I developed strategies, which of course we all have. We're designed to run away from lions. We're designed to like deal with droughts and famine and disease and all types of things. We're not very good at identifying social stresses yet. And when we have completely lost